Well, hello everyone. Here to show you right here, talk about for storage units right here. And I went and put together right here is this drawing right here, talk about for a storage unit. And it could also be an example for like, which calls like a just a measurement about talking about, if it's anything related to maybe, for storage or if it's sheds or anything like that. And, anybody probably thinking too is to where if you're going to maybe have like a storage unit, that's usually a place where you would keep a lot of your gardening tools or maybe lawnmowers or any other source of equipment that you might have that doing particular spring yard work or anything like that. And I know that the way I drew this right here is actually shown right here is that this storage unit was probably about maybe 57 by 72, something like that. The only thing was so about the size of a 2 or 3 car garage. So I would say about that big, about the size of a 2 car garage at the most. And so yeah, that talk about for storage units right here. So when we're thinking about storage units, I guess you say is that yeah, if you're going to be maybe renting a storage unit or if you're going to have a storage unit somewhere, that thinking is toward the things that you would have in there. And you likely want to know too that that's usually a place where it's possible that you think that you would even have carpet inside the storage unit, or if anything, it's just going to be an area where it's going to have concrete floors and which it calls like the type of for the inside right here that you're going to have it to where that you like maybe if anything maybe 1 or 2 windows inside there, and you have some items right here that you would be able to add to storage. And so it's like a lot of times it sure seems that way that whenever you are filling up a storage unit, that you think about as to where a lot of things that you maybe have in boxes. And so it's like, yeah, really, if you're transporting anything, especially, and if we're talking about maybe any like anybody probably thinking too that why do you think that maybe that you would maybe any grocery items or anything like that, why do you think that you wouldn't want to put those in storage, or for any reason at all that anything that requires refrigeration or anything like that, refrigerators or maybe kitchen supplies or anything like that. But I have right here talking about with the storage unit right here. And if we were to do the math, though, in likely 102 is that, really how big of a storage unit, especially, if you're just trying to move things or maybe find things that maybe that you don't need anymore, you may find a lot of those things. You may find a lot of related items just like that. And you're probably thinking, too, is that, especially whenever you start doing the spring cleaning, you start finding things that maybe you didn't know that you had. And a lot of times it seems like that you might get that a lot of times whenever you're going to be going through a storage unit, or maybe using a storage unit, that you find things inside storage that you didn't realize that you had, or if anything it could be that you knew that you had it but you just didn't know where you put it. So so it's like if you got a lot of things stored in boxes and bags, and you're probably thinking too is that about storage units. And so a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I know that almost everybody has had that experience to where if you're going to have a storage unit, and you're probably thinking is that number one, you put it in storage just to kind of get it out of the way. But the way I drew this right here, about the size of a 3 car garage. And I'd say done the measurements right there. But I'm like, that's pretty big size storage unit. And but I say that you could probably store a lot of furniture in there, a lot of bedding furniture and maybe kitchen furniture, or any boxes of accessories or anything like that. But really, though, when we're talking about moving things in and out of storage, though. And you're thinking too is that whenever you fill most of them up, it seems like that you want to look in there and probably find out too that you got a lot of things in that storage that some of them are like, well, if you got things further back, and then maybe you've got like if you fill up a lot of the area, a lot of the corners right here with a bunch of boxes and everything. So show right here is these boxes right here, but still, I know that like a lot of those boxes too. That especially if you got towels or maybe sheets, bed sheets or anything like that, they're going to be in these boxes, and at the time you likely want to know too that you may only have enough time to. If you take the time to go ahead and put labels on all these boxes, if we're talking about maybe 47 or maybe 52 boxes all together that you're going to be using just to put a few items in storage, and you're likely want to know too that if you don't have time to put labels on all of them, and you're like, well, yeah, that if you don't have a, I say you're going to go and just put if you're going to label those boxes, you're going to maybe put something like storage or something like that. You don't really put anything like section B or something like that, or aisle 5 or something like that. So yeah, that compared to maybe what the postal service does or something like that, that you got a lot of things in boxes. So if you were to work if you were to run like a library, if you were to use a storage area as like maybe like a library or some sort, and you're likely want to know too that certain items that you'll want to know about for where they are, and but I just really think too that that number, I'm like, yeah, and a lot of times it's like whenever if you're going to be renting a storage unit, a lot of times it's like, or have a storage unit that says to where that there's like any source of key, and I know a lot of places that I say they'll give you a key, or there'll be like a lock or somewhere, something like that they would have you use just to be able to lock up the storage unit and all that, but I just really think too that whenever it comes to most of the time with storage, though, that whenever you do fill up a storage unit, a lot of times it's like that you go through the storage, and then you might find, and then you see items and want to look through that storage and all that, but still if it's anything that's going to be related to maybe moving, or maybe that if you're just transporting things for any reason at all, if you're just transporting anything that you're working with, and that you're going to find some things that maybe you were wondering from where it was, all that. So yeah, it's just another way of showing to where that if you're going to have anything in storage, and like I say, is that really that most of the time, if it's maybe a couch or maybe a love seat or anything like that, that you think it too is that okay, do you think that maybe that will be going to storage, or do you think this will be going to storage? And so a lot of things that you might find in that storage, in that storage facility that you may think is toward it. That anything that you don't think that you're going to be using for a while, that it would be a good idea to go and put something like that in storage. And so like I say, if it's vacuum cleaners, any other source of home supplies that you'll be working with, and you will put those in storage. So it's like that whenever it comes to storage, though, and second is toward that you have a storage unit at about this size right here, about the size of a 3-car garage right here, and second is toward that you go ahead and want to fill it up and with all sorts of stuff, and second too is that you fill it up, and maybe if you got some space right around the corner that you can go ahead and use. But talk about the boxes, and along with the TV, or maybe anything else that you got that you're gonna be moving, and wash machine and dryer. People are probably thinking too that well, I'm like I don't know. I'm like unless if you're gonna be moving or anything like that, I don't know. Like everybody else is probably thinking too, they go ahead and washer and dryers. The washer and dryer units. The washer and dryer units, which for sure, like I got right here, is a washer right here. Wash machine and dryer units. A lot of times at those units, you're probably thinking too that well, really, how often is it that maybe you would find those in the storage unit? I'm like, well, about maybe every so often that you'll find something like that, just because that yeah, if it's moving, or if anything that if you're just trying to get it out of the way, if you're just trying to get it out of the way from what you're working with or what you're doing, like I say that if you just ran out of room at some point, and you can go ahead and just put a few things in storage. I'm like, I don't know. Do we really have to really explain about the fact about whenever it comes to putting stuff in storage? That do you really have to explain the fact of the matter is that yeah, you put it in the storage just because, so that we can get it out of the way, or just because that yeah, well, it'll probably be a while until you use it, or it possibly, the reason could be is this toward that if you were maybe thinking about getting rid of it at some point, but everybody else would probably say too, nah, it's really, if you're going to be putting anything in storage, I think a lot of times, most of the time, it's about getting it out of the way, and then for any reason that maybe if you don't think that it's very, I'm like, yeah, for anywhere that you're going to be, I'm like, if you're going to be traveling a lot or anything like that you're probably thinking too is that, yeah, you want to go ahead and put something in storage. And probably thinking it's like, yeah, well, most storage units per se too, then, yeah, if you're going to be renting a storage unit, then it's like, that probably say too is toward that's kind of like an example. It's about the same thing as like a closet. You want to look at it like a closet. You just you put things in there, and half the time it's like, does it really? Half the time you might think too is that a lot of times what you usually see in a closet, or like maybe clothes, or maybe anything that you haven't used in a long time, or it could also be books or paperwork or files of paperwork, or anything else that you might find in that storage unit. And you're probably thinking too is that something that you haven't seen in quite a long time, and probably thinking too that how do those get in there? So yeah, it's like if we're talking about stuff, and with that stuff that we're talking about, maybe if it's a candy bar, or maybe a bag of potato chips, that you'll want to know too is toward it. The things that you find in the storage unit. Why do you think that you would find a bag of potato chips in the storage? Yeah, well, that bag of potato chips, had disappeared about a week ago, and you'll want to know too. Well, where were they? But I mean, I really don't know. Like anybody thinking too that do you think it's possible that you would find a bag of potato chips inside storage? Like maybe something to snack on, or something like that, or it could maybe also be about that, maybe that, if you maybe, like anybody say that, yeah, whenever you go into a storage unit, a lot of times it sure seems that way that, is your main focus about filling out that storage unit, or is it really over the fact about that, you're just trying to, yeah, you're just trying to get a load all, like, yeah, get everything out of that moving vehicle, or anything like that, or anything that you're going to be working with. And a lot of times it seems like that, why did you leave the bag of potato chips in the storage unit? Or, yeah, why is this in the storage? And, well, why is that in storage? So a lot of times, I'm sure we've been there to where that if you're going to be going to a storage unit, that you find things in there that people may ask later on. It's like, well, what's that doing in here? Yeah, well, so whenever you do go to a storage unit, that you're going to find things in there, and probably thinking too is that, well, really, that, what's that doing in here? I'm like, well, really, that, so yeah, whenever you go to a storage unit, it sure seems that way that you just want to put things in there and maybe fill up some space, or if you just at the time, if you just don't think about things, and you put stuff in there. But there are times that whenever you go into storage, and then maybe if you're looking for something in particular, that you would find it. And so a lot of times it's like like going through, so stuff in the basement, or in the closets, or anywhere like that. And you're probably thinking too is that the main reason to why you go through your storage a lot of times, and let's just say if it's a lot of spring cleaning, and we probably know too that spring cleaning, of course, is not just about it doesn't just you don't just necessarily do it only around the springtime, but let's just say that if you were to be doing any sorts of spring cleaning, like about every other weekend or something like that, that you're going to go and just be doing, cleaning around the house. And that basically means is to where, yeah, whenever you clean around the house doing typical spring cleaning, that you're basically, are you basically taking things apart, that you're moving things around, and possibly that things are going to slip through the cracks. And what I mean by that is to where the things are just going to start showing up whenever you move whenever you move that love seat somewhere, or whenever you move the couch from one corner to another, or something like that. Whenever you start moving things around, you start finding things. And a lot of times, everybody else might even say too that you weren't toward it. Why does that happen a lot of times? Whenever you start moving things around and you start finding things. And so it's like, really that, you just really have to, I'm like, yeah, you got to move things and open things, I guess, just to be able to find things. And a lot of times it's like, yeah, just like a sealed envelope or anything else that's really closed, that's sealed and closed or whichever, that you want to know too, that why is it that you just start finding things whenever you move things around or whenever you open things. And but it sure seems that way to where that whenever you open things and move things, it's basically another way of stating as to where that you're changing positions. And so it's like whenever you move things, and it's possible any objects or anything. I'm like, yeah, just like a metal detector or detecting things that there might be small things hidden, right around the corner behind the couch, and there might be spare batteries and maybe coupons or anything like that you might find. And so that's why it sure seems that way that whenever we think about typical spring cleaning, that it sure seems that way that for what reason is it that maybe that you decide to go ahead and do a lot of the hard work. And so let's just say that maybe not everybody really wants to move that big love seat or that big couch, from one side at one corner of the room to the other, or not everybody really wants to take out the vacuum cleaner and start vacuuming, doing dusting and all that. But let's just say though that whenever you do work and whenever you do things like such as moving furniture, moving things, and it's like you start finding things. So it's like, yeah, that almost all the time that whenever we think about that, it's like, yeah, that think about the storage unit though, that you may want, where that's usually the place where you're able to find a lot of your belongings. But half the time, it's like, you may want to where it ain't that extremely important to know what goes in and what comes out. But a lot of times, it's like, well, really though, that if we're talking about putting a number of boxes in a number of transportable materials into a moving vehicle and transporting it to storage, though, it seems like that it's the main focus is mainly on getting everything out of the trunk of the car, getting everything out of the back seat, and maybe if it's a pickup truck, getting everything out of the vehicle and putting it in storage, right? And then whenever you go look into that storage, and it's like and you start finding a lot of things, and so yeah, it's like when we think about storage, that's basically another way of like talking about it's like such as a location where you're able to find a lot of your personal or important belongings at a later on point. So let's just say if it's been at least maybe a few weeks since you've been in that storage and you start finding things. So it's like, yeah, it's like a treasure chest. And like everybody else are probably thinking too, it's just like a treasure chest. You find things in there, and at the time you may find things that you didn't realize that were in there. But wouldn't we think that maybe that something like that will be exist for like any source of like an investment? That might just be a little bit different, but still, that whenever you hold on to things, it's like, yeah, that do you think that you would earn awards or credits, just for hanging on to things? Whenever you hang on to things, that especially if they're important things. And it's like say, but there might be some situations to where that anything that we find in storage, you might agree too that some of that stuff is considered junk. Like yeah, stuff yeah, junk or just items that you don't really hardly ever use anymore, or things that you don't really need anymore, stuff like that. But I just really think too that whenever we're talking about a storage unit, though, that if we were to actually do the math, though, that I'll go and write down on here that most storage units, I'm like, if it's a 57 by 85, I'll just say 57 by 85 feet length and width. So I don't really know how many, like I say, about the size of a 3-car garage. So if we had a storage unit about that size, and you probably thinking too is that a number of things that you would like to put in there, for store for later on, and thinking is toward it that yeah, that if you're going to have a storage unit just like that, it's possible that you might find lawnmowers. Yeah, lawnmowers, and I got room right here where I can draw like an example of a lawnmower right here. But like everybody probably thinking too that if you're going to have storage, I'm like you would a lawnmower or maybe an entertainment center or something like that you would maybe find in the storage. So it's like say is toward it yeah, you if it'll be a while until you use that item, it's like say that you by say that that's why it goes into storage. Is if you think that it'll be a while until you use it. And so that's why it's like everybody else might even say too that items that you find in a storage unit, and want to know too that you find them later on sometime too. The lawnmower, and then also anything else, valuable items, anything. Anything that you're just trying to get out of the way, and a lot of times, everybody else might thinking too is if you experience that to where, anything that you're going to be taken to the storage facility, or anything that you're going to be taken to a storage unit that you're just trying to get out of the way for a couple of weeks or something like that, you're just trying to get out of the way. And, let's just say if it's spring stuff or if it's maybe winter stuff or anything like that, that you're going to go ahead and take those to storage. So it's like, yeah, anything that you're not going to be using for a while, you put those in storage. But it sure seems that way that, the things that you might find in storage, if it's been maybe a few weeks or so since you used them, and so that's why it sure seems that way to where that whenever you go into the storage units, and let's just say if it's been cold outside or if it's been storming or raining outside, and you might see and notice that to where that there might be some things in that storage that maybe have gotten wet, or maybe a box that fell on the ground or something like that. So a lot of times it sure seems that way that that anything that you're going to be you'll have in storage, that you probably thinking too is that it's possible that some of it is going to be a lot of stuff like entertainment center or anything like that, boxes of stuff. It's going to have a lot of dust and dirt on it, and maybe some of the stuff that has to be rewashed, and maybe that some stuff of maybe some wrinkles on it, and maybe with the wrapping still on it or something like that. So yeah, that so whenever you do take things out of storage, it sure seems that way that it's maybe going to be dusty and dirty, and maybe that something that that has been in there for a while or something like that. So it's like so yeah, but if you're going to have a storage unit though, it's like it's possible that there's going to be a lot of things in there that are not going to be organized and that need to be cleaned. And so that's why it sure seems that way that if you go to a storage unit, it's possible that you would spend maybe at least a couple of hours there, 2-3 hours, making sure that things are more organized, and maybe if you're able to reposition a lot of things. But still, though, it's like when we think about a storage unit, though, that you just really want to go ahead and try to fill it up for whatever space that you need. And so yeah, what I talk about with the storage, though, that I guess one thing about them most of the time is with the fact about that when we think about a storage unit, though, that you put things in there and you might forget about them later on, and what I say is to where really that you try to avoid that just by saying is toward it. Yeah, anything in storage. I'm like, do you really keep a checklist on what all that's in there? But still, that you put things in the storage, and you probably had the time one or two that yeah. Well, if you can't find them anywhere at the house, and then you're gonna go and look in the storage, and but anyway, so yeah, it's like anything that you're gonna have in storage that probably thinking too is that you find things in there that you were looking for, and you find things in there that you didn't know that you had. But the way I think about it too, though, that with the storage units, though, that if you're gonna have them, and they say at least once a month, at least once a month to go to those storage units just to make sure that everything is fine, and that for how things like that there's anything that you need to take in and out of that storage unit at some point. If it's for the holidays, or maybe if it's just to rearrange anything or get ready for any sorts of events or anything like that. So yep, when we think about a storage facility, it sure seems that way toward it. That yeah, you'll allow your belongings that you want to save them at some point. So it sure seems that way. It's all about saving the items, and it's also about putting those items somewhere where they'll be out of the way, at least where they'll be safe, and knowing about that they, for how much work that you put into moving that for moving this stuff, because a lot of things or any other personal items. Probably say too that it's a job to just be able to transport a lot of that stuff, but a lot of times it's like you find things, and it's like anything in that storage unit that maybe somebody can use, especially. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and talk about with the storage unit right here. But I just really want to mention right here about maybe the size, filling up the storage unit. You show right here is the inside of the storage unit right here, and all I can say is that you'll see a lot of room in there, and like anybody probably thinking too is to where that the things that you want to take in and out of there, and probably thinking is that you walk into that storage unit, and it's possible that you walk through there, and then you notice a few boxes right here, and maybe a couch right here, and maybe entertainment center right here, and so yeah. But still, it's like having a storage unit just to be able to keep a lot of your items safe. But talk about safe for easy, for the hard work for the storage.